There we go.
Here we go.
We got you in here, Jay.
I remember the good old days whenever we used to get nervous when this kind of stuff would happen. It's like now it's just like this is just part of the process. Like you just embrace it.
Yeah, it is part of the process. You know,
Yes, sir.
You know, the interesting thing is during the COVID period before, I was doing very few virtual summits, coaching via Zoom. Obviously, I remember going to Houston, Texas, and doing 6 different companies in one day.
Yeah.
Right. And I would come home, Al, you'll appreciate this. I would come home and my wife would be like, I ain't letting you go back to Houston. I didn't want to talk to people, look at people. And it's like every time the Houston trip came around, I would go and spend 2 days in Houston coaching all these companies and then come home just completely exhausted. and I didn't even want to talk to anybody, man.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, we did those trips many times.
Like, you've been to Houston. I'm like,
it gets it's one of those things too. Like when you're in it, it's great. It's just like when you're done, you're like, man, that was rough.
Yeah, you don't know any better, man. You don't know any better. All right, Holly, I was trying to share this over to, it looks like I'm not in the Honey Badger Nation group. So I was trying to share it over there. It is live on my Facebook page. I don't know if you want to, if there's a way we could share it over there, but I'd love to share that.
Perfect. I'll get that live feed shared in the group right now.
Okay. Everybody needs a wizard, right? Everybody needs a wizard who can put it all together, folks.
Yeah.
Right.
Everybody needs a Holly.
Camera's off. My camera's off.
Everybody needs a Holly.
So, Coach, while we're getting some logistics worked out here, where are you coming to us from Seaside or from Nashville?
I'm actually at my home outside of Nashville, Tennessee. I just got back from 4 or 5 days in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, where I was down there working with the #1 State Farm agent in the country. And it's pretty impressive with 17,000 agents. He's actually out of Houston, Texas, and he takes his team on a cool trip every year to get them kind of kick-started. So we did Pray Drive and Because Goals, and then they had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So a little bit of coaching, and they had a lot of fun. So it was good for them. And
I never know if it's my island internet kicking out.
there you go.
Did I disappear for a second? So Coach, I want to point out a little something. Like one of the things that you're getting to see across all these different industries, right? Like, and so we're kind of always in our little world of real estate for the most part. But one of the things that I see the parallels in is like pouring into your people and those events and flying your team across the country or getting them involved and engaged in coaching and training. Those things are just for the people that are #1 or the top 0.0001% of their group. They're all pouring into their people. And I mean, it's great that we have that coaching and we have, we get that experience, but like you have to duplicate that within your group is what it seems to be something I see across all the best people across all industries.
Yeah. And never underestimate the need to bring people together, to reactivate their Pray Drive and to get people excited again.
Yeah.
Especially if you've been doing this a long time. My granddad, I'm from Tennessee. My granddad said, if you eat banana pudding every day for 10 years, you eventually get tired of eating it.
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, I know if it's good banana pudding, then you don't know, right? But the point was, I think you leave out of there with the high Pray Drive, and you just never underestimate the need to bring people together. And I know we're talking about person of interest tonight. We're going to get into that because people of interest are masters at bringing people together and getting them excited and having events and doing events. And, people need that reactivation of their drive. And so that's what I see many times is, I know it seems like an expense, but it's really not. I was in a coaching program for years where I went to Chicago and I had this dread before I went, like, I really got to get on a plane. I really got to go to Chicago, really got to stop what I'm doing. And then I'd get there, go through the coaching. Then I'd leave going, man, I needed this so bad.
Can't remember what we were talking about this we were talking, I'm getting a little bit of feedback, so I'm not sure if it's me or not, but Coach, we were talking about this the other day is we used to go to a mastermind, and we did it 3 times a year with Infusionsoft was the company. Clayton Mask was the CEO, and we were in there kind of early when they were very first starting to really take off. And the biggest problem that they had was the first mastermind we went to, the biggest problem they had was putting the chairs together. They were hiring so many employees, they couldn't get the chairs put together for their employees. I was like, I can't even imagine that as being my biggest problem, but it was a problem nonetheless. That was, so they were all, each new employee was putting their chairs together. And, but we used to go to that mastermind 3 times a year, and every single time we would be like, man, it's just so hard to leave. It's so hard to leave. But we would go and be like, man, this was the best one we've ever been to. Like, this one changed everything, like every single time. And so we always knew there would be that hesitation going into it, because you got to prepare and get clear on what your biggest problem is and what you're trying to solve and all that kind of stuff. But it was, we've made a lot of investments over the years, but you never want to leave, your home, and especially when things are going, and whether it's good or bad and you need to be there, it's just always hard to leave. So definitely something I recognize over the years.
Man, I tell you what, the top people, you talked about the top, the top % of people. And, I'm doing a lot of work right now with Kevin Elko. You guys have heard me talk about Elko. Elko is Nick Saban's psychologist at the University of Alabama. And one of the things we're doing is we're studying the top 3% of performers in multiple industries, and then getting the data on what makes those top performers. And they typically score very high in 5 categories. And then once we know what categories they score high, which ones they are, then we can test everyone else and then actually see where they need coaching in relationship to the top 3% of producers. Okay, so it's a kind of, we're calling it the science of winning. And we developed an assessment called the Pro 100, and the whole concept of going pro, instead of just guessing, right? We can actually test people and actually see where they need coaching. They may need coaching in connection. They may need coaching in boldness. They may need coaching in intrinsic motivation. They may need coaching, but the test is going to tell us exactly where to coach people, right? And it's just it's interesting way of really dissecting what a person needs. Okay. All right, Holly, have we got everything together? All right. Thank you very much for your help, folks. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm really excited about doing this. We're sharing this on Facebook as well. Eventually we'll go to YouTube. I get to work with a lot of people around the world, some of the best people in the world. I've coached some of the top insurance people in the world, some of the top, just best people in the world, direct selling businesses. And man, I've really, really enjoyed working with Jay Kinder and Al Stacey, mainly because of their mindset and their skill set. I like working with people who are ultra skilled and ultra talented, that are what we're going to call tonight people of interest. And when I look at people of interest, they have certain ingredients that we're going to talk about tonight. And because when you're trying to attract, right, when you think about recruiting and attracting people to you, those are verbs, those are actions. Those are not, right? Those are things you have to do. Okay. And I look at it in really 3 buckets, guys. I look at it as, how do you recruit and attract the best people in the world? And I believe like gravitate toward like. I believe association breeds assimilation, which means like-minded people move toward each other. People doing big things gravitate toward each other. People doing small things gravitate toward each other. There was a time in my life I was struggling. I was depressed, clinically depressed, and you should have seen, this is back in my single days, you should have seen some of the people I was attracting. Like, I looked up at my house one day out by my pool, and I'm like, what am I doing? and you know what it was? A group of strugglers, and we were all struggling together. And it was literally get together and talk about whose life sucked the most. Right. And it's like, I wasn't attracting big time people because of my mindset and where I was in my life. I was actually gravitating toward other people who were struggling versus gravitating toward people that were doing big things. So I believe like gravitate toward like. I believe association breeds assimilation. And I think there's 3 cycles to what most people are trying to do on this call tonight, which is recruit and attract better people. I like people that come with batteries included. Okay. I like people that are at the prey drive and all they need is a skill set. and we can teach them the skill if they got the prey drive, right? I'd rather have an A in mindset and a B in talent any day over an A in talent and a B in mindset, man. And so we recruit and attract, and that's what we're going to spend some time on tonight. And then we coach and develop the talent, that raw material that comes to us on our teams. Okay. And that's really what the Honey Badgers do a great job of coaching and developing the talent, just like a sports team coaches and develops. Okay. And then we retain and we optimize. Okay. So I want you to think about yourself when it comes to agent attraction of where do you really struggle? Is it on the front end of this thing? You're not very good at attracting, right? I say recruiting and attracting, or you're not very good at coaching and developing, or you're not very good at retaining and optimizing. And optimization would be when you get people on your team, you're just not very good at optimizing those networks to go get more people. Obviously, your top people should help you go get more people, right? If you're doing the right thing. So I'm going to be kind of asking Al and Jay some questions tonight from the framework of a book I wrote called Person of Interest. Okay. And I wrote this book probably 8 to 10 years ago. It's become one of my most popular books. It's actually more popular today than it was when I wrote it. Because I was young and I said, man, when I grow up, I want to be a person of interest. That was like a goal I had, right? Like I want to be somebody in the world. It's an old Travis Tritt song. I'm going to be somebody someday. And so I wrote this book, Jay, thinking one day when I grow up, man, I want to be a person of interest. I want to be known. I want to be somebody. I want to be somebody that other people are attracted to. And I really wrote the book because I didn't want to chase. I wanted to attract. I wanted to be the buyer versus the seller. Okay. Now, to be on this call tonight, you probably have an interest in moving toward, instead of just selling real estate, but moving toward building an organization. And at some point, you got to understand, and I can say this from an unbiased perspective, your B, or where you're moving toward, guys, has got to be thinking about passive income at some point. It's got to be going from I'm just selling houses because I can make X number of dollars selling houses to I'm trying to build an organization where I have, right, thousands of people working in cohesion and conjunction with each other to help everybody do better. Okay. So Jay, let me start with you. When did you have that revelation? When did you personally have that revelation that you wanted to move toward A to B, and B being, man, I want to build an organization versus sell houses? Let me unmute you there. Go ahead and unmute yourself there.
Yeah. So yeah, it might've been around the time that I was selling 50 homes a month and and was realized that I'd spent 10 years of my life building a business and the ladder was up against the wrong wall, right? I didn't have any more freedom. I made investments. I did some things to try to become financially free, but I realized that the transactional business real estate was just not going to get me any more free. And the real estate investments I made were, I had 20 something rental properties, and I was writing checks to those every month. I was like, well, what's the way out? There was no way out. And so we always subscribe to this mindset. There's got to be a better way. There's just got to be a better way. And so always being open-minded, always saying yes to opportunity until you have to say no. That led us to a coaching and training organization and thinking that residual was the answer. But the truth was, once you were 2 years into that business, while it's a rocket ship for the first couple of years, because there's not very much attrition, eventually you get to a point where even that becomes like going on a listing appointment every day. And it became very transactional. And so we're always looking for a better way. And then once we saw the leverage in this compensation model the EXP has, it just quickly became very clear that it was the best business model that we had ever seen that could really allow us to leverage our time and get time freedom. And that's really, it took, unfortunately, maybe I'm a slow learner, but it took me 20 years of my life to find it. Right.
Yeah. Well, when you think about it, you mentioned the business model, and I call that a vehicle. Mm-hmm. Okay. One of my buddies in real estate came to me and he said, I want to make $500,000 a year. That's what he told me. He was selling real estate. He was doing 35 to 40 transactions a year. Here's what I said. You can't get there in the way your current vehicle is structured. Folks, you can't drive to Hawaii. You can fly there, you can get on a boat and go there, but you can't drive there. The vehicle can't get you there. So when I'm looking at a business model as a coach, people are telling me they want to make a certain amount of income. I'm sitting there looking at the vehicle going, you can't get there. Even that State Farm agent I was coaching, the number one guy in the world, told me while I was in Mexico with him that they're capped. They're capped in gross in a certain number that they cannot exceed as an agent, as the number one guy in the world, by the way. He's like, man, this is all the gross income we can do, which is why he was looking for other investments and other things he could do because of that reason. So remember, at some point, you leave your amateur desires behind and you make a decision to go pro. And when you do, you want to make the pro money. And the pro money is like, I got to move toward this, getting this vehicle up and going. So Al, let me ask you this question. If everybody on this call can agree that the pro money is in building and building an organization versus just selling real estate, what is the mindset behind people that still struggle to flip the switch, to go attract, get involved in agent attraction versus just keep selling houses? What's the mindset there? Is it some kind of lock? Is it some kind of hole? What do you think it is?
Well, there's two parts to that answer. What I think it is it's based upon past experiences that they've had of brokers and maybe recruiters approaching them the wrong way. So they have a taste in their mouth and their mindset is, I don't want to be them. Number one thing, like for me, I remember when I joined RE/MAX back in 2007, the broker owners were like, hey, you can help us recruit. And I'm like, oh, okay. I've never recruited before. That sounds like fun. It was horrible. Like, I would set appointments for agents to come in and it was a lot harder than I thought it was, because I was doing it the old school recruiting way. I was chasing these people down. They weren't looking for me. I was looking for them. Therefore, the role was reversed. And so I got discouraged. Meanwhile, I was getting recruited the whole time by other people, and it left a bad taste in my mouth. Like, man, I don't ever want to be that. I don't ever want to be like, I know how they were coming across to me in my mind because of how they were approaching me, and they weren't building trust. They were actually doing the opposite. It was building distrust. And I was like, man, I mean, and it wasn't even that I didn't like them. I liked them. They were nice people and everything like that. But the way they were approaching me, I did not want, I said no to the way they were approaching me, not the opportunity. And so I think that that's a lot of people's experience. The second part of the answer to the question, I think, is, so Jay and Mike and I don't remember why we were doing this. It might have just been for fun. I don't remember, but I think we were doing some estate planning and we were trying to figure some stuff out with our business. And we were like, just tossing around saying, what do we think our business is worth right now? This was a huge, huge eye opener. Okay. Because somebody, a good friend of mine had been to Tony Robbins, his business mastery, and they talk about multiples and what companies are worth in the realm of multiples. And one of the lowest multiples is a real estate brokerage as far as what it's worth. And Jay, you could probably speak to this more. I know we shoot around the number of like 1.5 to 2% EBITDA. I'm sorry, 2x EBITDA of what a real estate brokerage, which is it's not a good multiple, But when you have a business that kicks out, residual, or if you want to call it passive, I don't know that we're 100% passive, because we're out there. We have to maintain our pipeline and maintain our people. But it's as close to passive as you're going to get in real estate. And when you do the multiple on that, it was mind blowing, right? To what our business is now worth. Now, kick that back about 5-6 years ago when we all had our own independent brokerages. We were doing anywhere from, $1.5 million to, I think, Mike, Jay, you guys were doing about 2-3 million down in Dallas, top end revenue. And our businesses weren't worth anything really. It was, in other words, when our vehicle was set up with the old vehicle, it was worth it. It was better off that we just kept it because it was a cash cow. Yeah, it could kick out good money, but we had to keep our hands on the wheel the whole time. It definitely was not passive. and it wasn't really residual. So, this is when you have that mindset, educate yourself and educate, your prospects as to what truly is your business worth. They're either going to keep lying to themselves in the mirror, or they're going to look at the truth. And the truth is that when we looked at what our business is worth right now, KRS Services, I mean, it gave me kind of goosebumps. I'm like, oh my God, like that's incredible. And our real estate brokerages wouldn't be anywhere, not even close to that. So that's the long answer to your.
Well, you said some key things there that I think are really critical. And you talked about the approach. Now, this is very important, what I'm about to say to you guys. The people you're looking for, folks, ain't looking for you. When you're going out attracting people, most of the big time people that you're looking for are successful. They're making good money. They're doing big things. And if you approach them the wrong way, there's actually statistics that say if you make a bad first impression, it takes 21 positive interactions to overcome the first negative. So if you come at a big time person in a poor way and approach them in a poor way, kind of halfway or half cocked, man, you could, as Al's talking about, you could end the opportunity right there, all in how you approach somebody. Okay. This is why with the Honey Badgers, we worked on the explanation of service in Las Vegas. What do you believe? Why do you believe it? What do you do? How do you do it different? Like you really need to have it together when you approach a person of substance, because man, they're making assessments of you, whether you think it's fair or not. Okay. So Jay, let's talk about the approach and let's talk about some of the basic things that you feel like people should have together, like that they should have their house in order, because I see people that go out into the marketplace and they don't really have their own house in order, but they're trying to tell other people what to do and get it going. And what do you think are some of the basics that would make a person more attractive to the marketplace to even go out there? I look for demonstrated capacity in people. I think trust is built through consistency. I look for reputational capital. I look for, do they practice what they preach? These are things I look for when I'm attracted to people. What do you think the basic thing is? If you say, man, how do you drive up your attractiveness and kind of become a person of advancement?
Yeah. I mean, I think it definitely starts with, you said consistency, that sticks with me. Doing something, being an expert at what you do. One of the things that I always look back to, like, what are the things that as a young real estate agent that helped me to become a person in interest. And one of the things that, because I was young, I was 19 years old, 20 years old, 21 years old, and I was one of the top guys in the world by the time I was 24. People didn't just initially trust me. I mean, they looked at me like I was a child, And so one of the things that I did was I understood the marketplace, and I was always putting out market data related to what's going on in the industry. I became an expert in my marketplace. And so, and even though I didn't have the track record of success, when people said, hey man, how's the market? I could quote statistics. Hey, there's 924 homes on the market. We're down 10% from what it is last year. Rates are up a little bit here. And I could have those kinds of conversations. So I think, one thing that is, is a staple, and now we have social media and we can be consistently putting out content and giving people, they see that we know we're a professional, right? And I think that's a key element that's helped me to become a person of interest early on, when it was really necessary for me, when I didn't have the track record, I didn't have, all the, the accolades behind me. Was when people talked to me, they knew I was an expert on the industry that I was in, and that I was a professional, not just an amateur. So that's one thing that comes to mind.
Well, I think about this because, I see people in today's world. It's a casual world we live in, right? It's casual, right? And I tell people, when I was 19 years old, I was a basketball coach, and I had a dream of being a head basketball coach. And one night I was coaching in a game, and I wore a pair of khaki pants, little slouchy vest. And I coached the game. We won the game, and I was walking off the floor, and the men's head coach, who was not even my boss, called me over there. He said, kid, do you want to be a head basketball coach one day? I said, yes, sir. He said, don't ever wear that outfit again. Now, the reason I'm saying that, guys, is that some of you are building your brand. You're in the early stages of building your brand. Okay. When you're making millions of dollars a year, look, dress any way you want to, man. Zuckerberg can wear what he wants to. Steve Jobs can wear a turtleneck when he wants to. But when you're trying to get up and going, present yourself like an expert, present yourself like a professional. And if you don't know your craft, that means you're not a local market. See, the real estate in Puerto Rico is different than the real estate in Houston. It's different than the real estate in Tennessee. The weather's not the same in Tennessee as it is in Mexico. Like, you got to know your local market, and you got to really become that expert so you can talk about this. Now, let's talk about, because Al, you said something about it's not passive income, it is active income. Now, here to everybody watching this tonight, I want to draw a distinction here. Active income is you're still working for the income, but when you get enough people working and the flywheel's going, you have enough excess cash at the end of every month to then invest in things that are truly passive. Okay, but a lot of people never get to that level, right? If you took what you made in 2021 and you took out what you personally made, how much excess cash did you have after you paid yourself, paid your bills, paid your taxes? And if that business is running correctly, you should have a big pile of cash over here that you can then reinvest in something that can be completely passive. Everybody see that? So the active income becomes passive, but most people never get to that place where they've got excess cash at the end of every month. Okay, that can stockpile into real profit that can be converted to assets or whatever you choose to purchase. Okay, and that's why the active piece of this. So how long has it taken, Al, how long has it taken you guys to build an organization as big as it is today, from start to where it is today?
Well, I moved my brokerage over 4.5 years ago. It was August of 2017. Jay and Mike joined us 2 months later in October. So yeah, basically 4.5 to where it is today. I mean, I guess Jay might have a different answer for this, but to where it exceeded my personal expenses for my, to live the lifestyle I was living at the time, 9 months, about 9 months, to where, I guess you classify that as being wealthy. When your passive income exceeds it. And I didn't mean it to be where revenue share is active. Clearly, selling homes for commissions is active.
Yeah.
What I mean by it is that we don't treat it as, residual in a sense of, or passive in a sense of that we don't do anything.
Yeah.
It's not 100% passive is what I mean. We're out there supporting our community, growing our community, adding good people to the community, helping people bring others into the community. So, those are the key ingredients. I think that the number one thing that I get asked, Jay, I'd love to hear what your number, when somebody gets in my schedule and I look at the notes to see what the call's about, because it's either me helping someone with a recruit or a broker, or it's someone asking about agent attraction. And when it's someone asking about agent attraction, the number one question is well, how do I get to where you're at?
Yeah.
And it goes to one of the principles that you teach to, which is bluegill versus blue marlin.
Yeah.
And we didn't know that terminology prior to us starting in 4.5 years ago. But 4.5 years ago, Jay, Michael, John Kitchens, myself, Holly locked ourselves in a room with a huge whiteboard on the wall in Dallas, Texas. And we figured out, and this is 2017, EXP had about 5,000 agents at the time. We weren't even in all 50 States. And so we didn't know, but we needed a strategy. And I can tell you, if I were to just break it down to one sentence, it was the influencer strategy. And the reason that we knew that it was going to work is because it worked for Kinder Reese Coaching. They grew, a $10 million organization off of the principle of focusing on winners, not trying to turn losers into winners, but focusing on winners and helping the winners win bigger and faster. And that's what Kinder Reese was about. That's what attracted me to that coaching organization as a client. And we just literally said, all right, let's not try to reinvent the wheel. Let's just do what what Mike, Jay, John, Holly, what they did with Kinder Reese coaching and NAEA. They focused on winners. And so said differently, that is focus on influencers, focus on brokers, team leaders, focus on people that understand leverage and understand growth. And they believe the same things we do. And so I think a lot of people are focusing on bluegill, and there's a lot of real talented people focusing on bluegill, and they're bringing a lot of bluegill. I mean, they're catching them. They can't even, the net's about to break. They're catching so many bluegill, but that ain't going to get them to the promised land. And I believe that, we have to think a little bit bigger and get outside your comfort zone and start speaking to people that are making you squirm a little, people like Dan Beer, people like Chuck Fazio, people like Tina Call, people like Go-Go. You see those names come across and 4 years ago, you think, oh, I would never want to talk to that person. They'd never want to join us, but look where they're at today. Curtis Johnson, Jay Kinder, Mike Reese, the list goes on and on. And so you really have to have that belief and that faith and not care if you're going to be told no. I mean, I'm told no more than anybody I know, frankly, but I'm going to get back up there and, and that's not 100% true. I'm not told no. I'm just told I'm not ready right now. Yeah. I'm always told I'm not ready.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm going to get up the next day and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to send out my text messages. I'm going to keep connecting. I'm going to keep building an affinity, a deep affinity with my top hit list and my people. And I'm going to keep doing it. And,
well, you said something there I want to draw out for everybody here. Okay. You guys made a decision to go pro. Everybody on this call needs you to hear this. The word decide means to kill something off. Okay. You got in a room with a whiteboard and you created a strategy. And if you haven't done that for your agent attraction yet, you're still an amateur. Okay. If you're serious about this, and then you went after, that's a term we use in our coaching program, bluegills versus blue marlins. Bluegills are small fish. Blue marlins are big fish. Okay. Now the influential piece of this, and then they had a strategy, and the strategy was we're going after the influencers. Okay. Now I have an insurance agency that I just started literally less than 6 months ago with one guy, and we're on track to have almost 4,000 agents in that agency in the first 6 months. And you know why? It goes directly to what Al just said. We got 3 or 4 key leaders that came on board with us. And when they came on board with us, we got their whole group. And that's 600 here, 1,800 here, 500 here. The key to the many is to the one. Everybody hear what I just said? The key to the many is to the one. And when you get the one and you sow into that one, like gravitate toward like, the next thing you know, they go like, hey, boys and girls, we're going over here. And everybody goes, let's go. Because I trust you. Anytime we get large numbers of people, it's because I typically have formed a real strong relationship with a key person in the organization. Okay. And that person has so much influence, everybody listens to them. Okay. So what did they do? They made a decision to go pro. They got in a room and made a decision, right? They got in a room and cultivated a strategy, and they went after the blue marlins. Okay. Some of them said, not now. I'm not ready today. That don't mean you stop. No doesn't mean no forever, just means no today. Okay. Maybe they haven't seen enough information. Okay. So Jay, let's go back to this concept of, I believe 3 reasons people join somebody: trust, belonging, and purpose. They trust that you're the best in the world who can help them. So let's talk about what you've done to drive up your POI score so that the market trusts you.
Yeah. So before I answer that, I was about to bust at the seams just with this last part of the conversation. And so I'm always trying to dissect like what's working and for who and why. And so everything Al said, I 100% agree with. the interesting thing is in the numbers, when I'm looking at the numbers, and I've got this whole list of, I scoured through all the data that you can't even really get other than manually doing this, but I went through it all and I spent 2 days on it. And the thing that's super interesting with this is like, even if you're not even, and I do believe the strategy of going after blue marlin over bluegills is the right strategy. Like, it's all in the numbers, right? Like this is one of the few business models that the numbers just work out. It just over time, if you say, if I tell people I have 91 people that I personally sponsor, that sounds like a lot, but in 4 years, it means I've averaged 3 people a month. It's not that many people. And the reality is if you start going through my list of the people that I've personally sponsored, it's not like I have a ton of people that have just recruited like crazy. It's not really the case. Probably half of them haven't recruited anybody. And so the thing is, if you're looking for people that are looking for opportunity, to me, this is a big distinction. If you just want to talk about how we can help somebody sell more houses, that's fine. We'll help people sell more houses. And I'm happy to do that. And I'm excited to do that. But if they at least get exposed to the opportunity of having an income that multiplies upon itself, you will find the blue marlin that you didn't know was a blue marlin. And so, when I look at, I'm just looking through these numbers. I was just scrolling, I pulled it up just to kind of scroll through, and I'm looking, and, Gary Wilson has 29 people that he's personally recruited. He has 132 in his group. Like, there's a certain point where if you're recruiting 1 or 2 people a month, that you couldn't stop it if you wanted to. And there's a lot of people on this call. I've got all the names. I'm writing them down. I see some of the people that are on here. Daniel Clotfelter, he's on my list. Todd Schrott's on my list of people that have consistently been recruiting, and they're starting to get multiplication. Elizabeth Austin, Mary Murphy, who told me she would never recruit, by the way, never. She said, I'm not interested in that. I'm not interested in that. I just want to go from this to that, A to B in terms of production. But she saw the opportunity, and she became a person of interest, and then started attracting lots of people. And so now the opportunity to go from, like, guys understand, like, if you got 10, if you got 10 or you got 15 or you got 20 in your group, you can go to 1,000. Like, it's inevitable. You just have to start shifting your focus. And that's the big thing that I see with the people that are growing. And then it becomes identifying who are those 2 or 3 people that saw what you saw and see what you see. And they're here on this call that you invited, either you invited your people to this call or you didn't. Like, there's 1 or 2 or 3 people that if you can help them lead those people, leaders creating leaders, it's just a little shift in focus. And you got it. Motivation is hard to find and easily lost. You got to keep them plugged in. You got to keep them engaged, because it doesn't feel like it's going to move fast. It's like that pushing that flywheel is slow. But once the flywheel starts to go and you get to 50, and then it gets to 100, then it gets to about 150, and you start to feel like, hey man, we added 20 people this month and I didn't talk to any of those people. That's where the leverage is in this model. It's in the effort of others. If you're leading people, that's what happens. And so, and you're literally from 200. The growth rate of the people in this company, in our group specifically, I'm seeing, 4.5 to 6% growth rate per month once you get to that stage, which means you're basically doubling every 12 months. That means you're 2-3 years away from being at $500,000 or $1 million a year in passive income. This year, me, Alan, Mike made $4 million in passive income from EXP. Why? Because we are staying focused on the one thing we know that drives the most long, the highest margin income that we've ever made in our lives. And that's, and it means there's a commitment to go into events. It means there's a commitment to being on these calls. It means there's a commitment to your people and making sure that you're getting them and their people on those calls. But that's what this thing's all about is once you get momentum, man, it's, Big Mo carries you to the end zone. You know what I'm saying? It's fascinating. And there's just, like, I love selling houses. It was great. And you can go sell more houses, but there's a big difference in what this income will be 12 months from now versus what your commission income will be. It's going to be based upon your time, effort, energy, out on appointments, late evenings and weekends. I did it. I know what it looks like. This is different. This is a different kind of animal. And so for those of you that are starting to see it, first of all, congratulations to everybody on this call, because these are the folks that get it and they end up getting there. And if you're not plugged in, unfortunately, we owe it to our people to make sure everybody sees this opportunity and they get involved in these types of conversations, because I think it's too easy to go back to just trying to sell another house and pay the bills. Yeah. I didn't answer your question at all, Coach, but that was like in my mind.
No, when you were talking about that, I kept thinking about the law of diffusion, and you talk about the numbers, because people ask me how do I generate 3,000 leads every 90 days? and it's sheer volume of push and movement and circulation. So when I'm trying to attract people to me, to your point, I don't know where the Blue Marlins are. Like, I didn't know I was going to hook up with you and Al Stasic that day I spoke in Nashville for 20 minutes. I had no idea. I just went to get in front of people because I believe you don't need more money, you need more people. The people have the money. So the law of diffusion tells me that for every 350 people you get in front of, 52.8 of those people are going to be open and inviting. Then there's a percentage that's got to see it 3 to 7 times, a percentage it has to see something 7 to 15 times. Then there's a percentage of people that ain't never going to see it, the closed-minded or fixed mindset people. But to Jay's point, if you get out there and circulate and move, this is why you do the events like I'm doing for EXP in Houston this week. This is why you do the events, to get in front of people, because when more people come in, who knows, your next Blue Marlin may be sitting over there. You don't even know. You don't even know where they're at. You don't know they're a Blue Marlin. So there's 2 ways to go about it. Yes, that's a Blue Marlin over there, and I'm going to try to get them, or I go out into the marketplace and I move and I circulate and I host events and I bring people together and I'm doing webinars, and you never know who's watching, and those people are coming in. It's interesting because we're doing something in a few weeks that's just a real low cost thing, Jay, but it's, there may be 500 people on it. And what's been interesting to me is these people, I don't even know. I've never even seen many of them. Here's what they said: man, we've been watching Coach for 2 or 3 years, and I can't wait to come to this event. And they just needed the right door to walk in. Well, there may be, out of 500, there's going to be some Blue Marlins somewhere in that group, right? But if we needed just the right bait, we needed the right message, we needed the right concept, which is why you need to keep going, guys. You need to keep doing these multiple things. So Al, my belief is an object at rest stays at rest unless acted on by an outside force. So, and what's your belief about what people should be doing to get this, to crank this engine of attracting? Like, what should they be doing? I personally believe they should try to be people of interest. They should be hosting their own events. They should be bringing people together. They should be in front of people with a message, a mission, and a lot of movement. What would you tell a person says, okay, I'm in, I'm ready to go do this? What do you think they need to do first? Unmute yourself there. They muted you. You get muted there.
I muted myself. Sorry about that. Okay. Before we get into anything tactical, when someone, forgive me, because I hear it all. I hear it a lot. Like, man, I'm ready to, take this thing. And so, and I believe they are, but I believe we're skipping one. There's one key thing that we're skipping, and it's going to make some people uncomfortable on here, but it's the belief piece, and not the belief that you're talking about. I'm talking, do you truly believe that everyone's coming? Do you truly believe that you can get to 1,000? Okay, because just telling yourself over and over again is only going to get you so far. Like, do you truly have that belief? And so the next question is that if you're doubting yourself a little bit, because you're looking at the guy who doubted himself. And why did I doubt myself? Well, it goes back to that other principle, and I forget the percentage you said, but if you're in a room of 500 people, there's only a small percentage of the people, and you already know that. Here's one of the biggest problems I think that people run into. A, they don't have the belief in themselves that they can actually do it. They're maybe saying it, but they really truly don't believe it. And I was that person. So I'm not picking on anybody. I'm telling you, my personal experience was that, and what caused it was this, I guess you could call it an insecurity around, like, oh, well, if I take this stance and I go pro and I go big and I go all out, maybe some people are going to look at me differently. Okay. And they're not going to, maybe I'm going to piss some people off, and maybe not everybody's going to like me. Guess what? I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and I'm not expecting to be. And it took me a while to learn that lesson. It's one of the things that, Mike and Jay, they were my mentors before they're my friends and business partners. And I saw them like not giving a damn. Okay. Just doing it anyway. And you're going to have people that are not that are going to be like, oh, you know, that's all he does is he's a recruiter and this and that. And they're going to put labels on you. So what? Let them fucking put labels on you. Go do it anyway. And until you're ready to just like be able to get into a place personally where you just don't care, you don't give an F, okay, about what these other people are thinking, you're not going to get there. Truly, you're not going to. You're just not. You're not going to get there. So mentally, before you start thinking tactically, you better get there mentally. You better believe you can do it. Truly, okay. And so what are the things that you can do to help that belief? Get in better rooms. Get around other people who are already doing it. You know. Have more phone calls. I love I get the same calls from the same people. Just want to pick my brain. Those people are building their belief, they're building their confidence, and they're going to have it because they constantly, they're calling me, they're getting in my schedule. I love it. You know, I love talking to those people. The people that I'm not a fan of seeing them in my schedule are the ones that get in my schedule. They take 30 minutes of my time and they don't do shit. Those people, I could take them or leave them. As far as, you know, I'm still happy to spend 30 minutes with them, you know, but come on, get it and go. Come away with a belief. What's the goal? We've all heard it. We don't need to hear it over and over and over again. We know you need your hit list. You need to hit that hit list consistently and follow up with meaningful content, you know, and then you need to schedule calls, 3-way calls with one of us. And we've heard it a million times. Why ain't most people doing it? I believe it comes back to the lack of belief in themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. And believing that there is a better way. There's a better, way to grow your business, and believing that it's not just, you know, set aside for the elite few. It's set aside for you. If you decide and you make that decision and do it. So that's my soapbox. I'll get off it for a minute, but it's got to start there before we go tactical.
Well, you mentioned something here. I want to give a word to people. It's called a consideration. And a consideration is an internal thought that prohibits an action. Okay. And when you don't have a belief, you're already thinking they'll reject me. They won't be interested. I could never get them. They won't like me. See, you've already made up your mind. That's called a consideration. Big time people remove that consideration. So so I was writing down as you were talking, Al, those 5 characteristics we see in the top 3% of the performers. One of them is boldness. They literally don't care. They're bold. And the interesting thing is one of them also is they treat everybody like family. And I think about, since I met you guys, you know, I've been cold calling Brent Gold just for fun to see if I could get it and keep his attention. And, you know, first time I called him, he answered and he said, "Hey, Michael, how you doing, man?" Never talked to him, never met him. It just shows up my phone on it, right? And the dude talked to me like he known me forever. First time I ever met him. He had no idea who I was. He had never heard of me before. I send him messages now, FaceTime him. He'll FaceTime me back. Today he sent me a message saying, "Man, I'm proud of him. Keep up the good work. We're going to do something together." Now, here's one of the characteristics of the top 3%. They treat everybody like family, man. They have a very high connection. Okay. They don't know where the next opportunity is going to come, but the way they treat people, interact with people is really important because that wins people over. Okay. That wins people over. And I talk to some people during the day, man, and they don't have that posture. Attitude's a posture of the body, represented by physical state. Are you open? Are you closed? Are you friendly? Are you rude? Okay. And so I just look at what the top people do, right? Bold, family, intrinsic motivation. They lock into big goals, man. This is what the top people do. Okay. So we can learn from that. Now, this concept of going deep in it, Jay, because Al just mentioned that there's certain people that call, pick his brain, and then they go do it. They call, pick his brain, and then they go do it. They call, pick his brain, and then they go do it. I always talk about being deep in it, man. When you're really immersed in it and you're really doing it. And I guarantee you see this, going to the people are coming to the events. They're sitting up front. They're getting it and they're going and doing it. They're coming back with a hunger and curiosity. See, that is a characteristic of a person of interest is, man, they're always hungry. When you study big time people that have got 600 million worth, I've got friends that are worth 600, $700 million, and they're enamored by the billionaires. Like they're like, man, I'm nobody compared to that dude. That dude's way outperforming me, and they're learning from them. Okay. And so there's always this cycle of that. So Jay, when you see that from people to become a person of interest, isn't it just an insatiable hunger to keep moving up, to keep growing and keep getting better? Is that a characteristic you see?
Absolutely, 100%. It absolutely is. And I think one of the things that I see that is just a little separator between the best of the best and the people that just haven't quite broke through is their discipline on the skill set and learning exactly what to say, how to do it. That piece is so important. And I feel like it's real easy to get excited about the opportunity, but then you go out there and you just throw up on somebody. And like, are you following the dang process? You know, that like, if there was most of my calls the first 2 years were through calls. Now, most of my calls are the same exact redundant. Hey, what should I do? Go through the training, take good notes, and go do what the damn training says to do. Exactly. And then when you don't get the results you want, go back and say, where did I mess up? What am I doing wrong? Because I made that mistake early in my career. And so I had this awareness that I wasn't a good student, and I wasn't ever a good student. I was a C student, but I listened to this call that I recorded and my coach replayed back for me. And I was like, damn, I didn't follow the script. I thought the lead sucked. No, the lead didn't suck. I sucked. I just didn't follow the process. He said, go back and do it again. And this week, keep track of everything. Let me know how it goes. The next week, I was like, holy crap, I cannot believe it. That 1% difference in what I was saying, how I was saying it was everything. And so I learned early on, I was like, man, hey, you don't got to be real smart. You just got to be a good copycatter, and Jay Abraham always gives me crap about that because, it's modeling success. Like it's the skill. Or have you learned the skill set? Do you know the scripts? Are you practicing it consistently? And then are you cascading that down to your team? Is the difference between the groups that are doing extremely well. The people like the Dan Hillsmans that are here with James Massey that's here with 3 people. He's got 700 people in his group. Dan's got, he's approaching 1,000 people. He's 800, just crossed over 800. These are the systems. This is the process, right? And so like you grade yourself on how well are you following that process, right? Like I just became process oriented over time, not because I'm a process oriented person. I'm not. In fact, I think my personality set is the opposite of being process oriented. I just got tired of having to do things over and over again. Like there's a process to follow. And if I follow it and get the better result, then I'm going to do it, out of pain. I think I finally evolved to that. But like the people that I see that are doing the best are following the process we teach. And if you haven't gone to it and you haven't gone through it and haven't heard us say it, that's on us. But it's agentattractiontraining.com, agentattractiontraining.com. If you haven't gone through it, you're not following the process. Like that's where it all begins. Become disciplined to follow the process and don't try to, over entrepreneur this. That's the biggest mistake I see people make. And that's what we learned by studying, the best of the best and all the industries that are, network marketing type businesses, which is the same principles apply to what we're doing here. And so like that to me is like the thing that I run into the most. And I think that where people have the most frustration is that they haven't committed to the process.
Jay, there's one thing I want to add to that, and that is our wee bit of unfair advantage is having a gentleman by the name of Michael Reese in our corner, who I don't know anybody who is obsessed with processes more than this human being. Okay. When he encounters, so much so that when he encounters any problem, it doesn't matter whether it's like flag football, there's a problem with coaching the flag football team. What does he do? He goes home, puts a process in place. Everything. It's all process oriented, like to the point where it might even give me a bit of a headache. But it's great because it's the right principle.
It's solving the right problem.
He's solving the right problem, right? Because what's going to happen is this: he's going to have a process to follow that's going to solve that problem every single time, where the person who's not following it is going to have to figure it out and start over from day one every single time. And so Yeah. And the good news is this process is super easy to follow. Yeah. AgentAttractiveTraining.com plus all of the resources. Jay, what is the document that you uploaded that has the exact wording for, you know, how, when someone's doing a 3-way call, how to, you know, set it up, how to introduce the person that you're bringing onto the call? It was like was it like a 7 or a 9 point?
Yeah, it's like the 8-point invitation, something or other script or whatever, right? Like it's in documents. Like, first of all, I mean, it's a probably little known resource, but like the Honey Badger Nation Facebook page has guides. These are like modules, like training modules. If you go into them, the interviews, every interview that we've ever done with every person, like you'll hear what we're saying, but you'll hear them saying it because they followed the process, and it'll just sound 10 times better, I think, from their conviction of what they did. And so there's tons of content, tons of things that we've uploaded, scripts, dialogues, all those things are uploaded into the group. You have access for it. So like, you know, go dig through and look for those things, because I think that's again, I think, you know, all this again goes back to, it's all in AgentAttractionTraining.com, but all of those documents are also loosely within the group. One
more thing I'm going to add to this, and I'm going to let Coach wrap us up for the night, because we're approaching our 1 hour here. But you know, the other thing is that there's success leaves clues. And Jay, I know you'll probably agree with this. Like, there's only a few people that I can name off the top of my head. I'll just name 2. There's probably about 5 to 10, but 2, Dan Hillsman and Andre LaFountain. When they get me on a 3-way call, I can close my eyes and I know exactly what they're going to say. And it's so funny because it sounds like it's like a recording, but you guys have to remember that the person that's on that 3-way call, they've never heard it before. Now, you may get sick. Here's the one thing I screwed up on. I used to, you know, I had my listing presentation down pat so much I could do it in my sleep. And then, because for whatever reason, my mind thinks I'm weird or whatever, I get bored easy, ADD, whatever you want to call it, I start changing it up. Why? Because I got sick of how I was saying it. But that is the right way. So fall in love with the boring.
Yep.
Fall in love with the mundane, because it's not by accident that Dan Hillsman and Andre LaFountain have organizations that are about to exceed over 1,000 agents. And they just follow the same boring thing every single day. And they say the same boring thing. And it ain't boring, but it, you know, when you say it 3, 4, 5, 6 times in a day and that many presentations, yeah, it could be like that, but they just stick to it. They just stick to the process. They don't wean from it ever. And so it's just funny. When I'm on a call with them, I already know what to expect for the first 2-3 minutes. They're going to set it up exactly the same exact way they always do, and their percentage of closing is higher than anyone else that I work with and help in our organization.
Well, you said success leaves clues, and both of those guys have registered to spend time with us down in Florida. And that's one of the things we're going to introduce tonight is, you know, this is kind of a preview of an event that Jay and Al and I are doing down in Seaside, Florida in May. And we're going to be doing a 2-day boot camp down in Seaside, Florida, 22nd and the 23rd, called Person of Interest. Okay. And you come down and you stay there with us. You stay there in the houses. We spend 2 days coaching you and working with you on how to be a person of interest, how to build agent attraction, a real agent attraction. Okay. And we've already had a number of honey badgers take action on this. So I think, Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong. We're down to the last 2 or 3 spots on this. Okay, we got 1 spot left. So, so whoever gets there first is, I guess, the person that we're going to get in there, because we're limiting this to 10 people for the intimacy of it. You stay down there for 2 days with us, and then we coach you for 2 full days on person of interest, agent attraction, building big organizations. And we'd really like to spend some time with you just learning these strategies, because I'm telling you, once you get this person of interest right, and you learn how to say it, the ingredients you need, the how to build it out. This could literally change your life forever, guys. Okay. It literally could change your life forever. Okay. And of all the people, I will just tell you from my personal experience, anybody I've ever coached that's earning millions of dollars of personal income have all been people of interest. This has been one of the main strategies that they've implemented is how do they become known? How do they learn how to attract? How do they build big organizations like this? So this is something that I really encourage you, if you're interested in doing, come down there and spend 2 days with us and really learn that. It backs up to our Living with the Honey Badgers couples retreat. And I don't know if we have any spots left on that, only one spot there as well. So if you are a couple and you want to come down and go through that Living with the Honey Badgers retreat, that's 3 days with us down in Florida. So some of you going to come down and spend almost a whole week with us learning these methodologies and systems to really help you play at a much higher level. So is there any questions that anybody want to ask tonight? So what I'm telling you, be me, Jay, Al, in Seaside, Florida, one of the prettiest places in the world. I call it the Hamptons of Florida. Big, beautiful plantation houses, multi-million dollar houses that we rent. And then we do intimate coaching right there at my personal house down in Watercolor, Florida. And this is something that Al's been down to and just spent a couple of days with me down there. And we're going to be going deep on these agent attraction, person of interest boot camps. So Chris will post the link in there. And if you're interested in taking action in there, we'd love to have you. If you want to do something else and you can't come to this, just email chris@coachburt.com and we'll find something else for you to get involved with. But it's going to be us three. I'm excited about doing something with these guys. We've been working together now probably for 6 to 8 months, and it's been a lot of fun. I really, really appreciate you two just for your skill level and your professionalism. And number one, you're just good dudes. So congratulations on all your success. I don't know if we got time for 1 or 2 questions. If anybody would like to ask, and then we're going to get you off here. I know we've gone an hour.
We appreciate you too, Coach. There is one. So Mary Murphy has a quick question. She said she wanted to grab it. She wanted to know if, I'm assuming it's her husband or her better half, Brian, wanted to go with her. Is that one spot they both can go? I think the answer is yes, correct?
Yeah, they would be purchasing a bedroom, and one of basically what you're purchasing is a bedroom. So it would be, you'd have your bedroom for you and whomever, if you're coming by yourself or if you're bringing a person with you.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Okay, any other questions you guys have tonight? I don't know if I'm missing anything. We will send the replay out, and I think Jay will send this out if you guys want to watch it again. We did live stream it on Facebook. Guys, listen, I'll close with this, man. When you're getting in the room with these big time people, just watch and observe what they're doing. And if they tell you to do it exactly this way, this is exactly the way you should go do it. Just do it exactly what you see them do. Just go do it exactly what they do, the way they do it. And if you're confused about the process, go in and do what I call the deep work. That's a book by Cal Newport. Deep work. The deep work is you got to know, you got to go in and study this so that you're really the expert there. So thank you guys for coming tonight. If you need us for anything, Chris@coachburt.com can help you. And Al and Jay, we appreciate you, man. You guys have a great night. God bless everybody.
Thanks,
Nice.
Coach. Thanks, Jay.
Yep. See
Good
ya.
night, everybody.